Okay, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Clarke Towson. I'm the CEO of INTJ Billing, Melbourne-based Bitcoin and cryptocurrency consulting company. So in this video, I'm going to present to you a series of graphics that I've been collating for the past year, whilst I've been very deeply researching Bitcoin. So I started this research in May of 2017. I'm going to begin by talking about where we are now, approximately with Bitcoin as of August 2018. Then I'm going to compare and contrast Bitcoin with other technologies, then talk a little bit about fiat currency. After that, I'll talk about Bitcoin's fundamental price value, its past corrections, how to predict whether it's currently under, over, or fairly valued. Then I'll talk a little bit about its parabolic moves. And finally, I'll leave you with some very general things about it and my final thoughts. So this video will focus on the fundamentals. There are plenty of others out there, other people focus on the technicals, for those of you that are interested in technical analysis. I'll speak a little bit about each of these slides, and I'll leave you with my takeaway message for each. So all of you Bitcoin fans out there, strap yourselves in. I think you're going to very much enjoy this video. I'm sure our friends Paul Rowe, Hamza Cadiz and Jeff Kolak won't like it at all though. So here we go, my year of hard-won research. All my research work free for your benefit. Now this is a live stream, so there might be some ums and ahs. I'm going to put this into a video and polish it up a little bit later for my channel. So let's start with why. Why is Bitcoin so important? What's the bottom line? Well, Bitcoin gives us for the first time a way for one internet user to transfer a unique piece of digital property to another internet user such that the transfer is guaranteed to be safe and secure. Everyone knows that the transfer has taken place and nobody can challenge the legitimacy of the transfer. The consequences of this breakthrough are hard to overstate, and that's from Mark Andreessen, the co-founder of the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. So, I personally believe that Bitcoin, which is the first practical solution to the Byzantine generals problem, is the most important breakthrough in computer science in my lifetime. And I say that as a computer scientist with almost 20 years experience in computing, mostly scientific and high-performance computing. Why is there so much speculation about the price and the future value of Bitcoin? So, I think the reason why we have so much speculation on price is because if you actually look at the economics of Bitcoin, they're very, very interesting. If you think about hard assets, gold, silver, I guess you could include property in that, people are always looking for ways to store value. Now, if you think about gold, there's always more gold that's being found in the world. It's constantly being dug up and out of the ground. Same with silver and other commodities. With property, there will always be more properties going up. If the price goes up, then developers move in and they will simply increase the number of properties that are available. So Bitcoin is an example of probably it's the world's first asset that is, I guess, harder than gold and any other commodities and assets out there, because the supply is fixed and most of the supply of Bitcoin is already out there, right? So if you look at this graph here, top right-hand side, Bitcoin outstanding, you'll see the number of Bitcoin and how there's a flat response over time. So you can see between 2009 up until 2018, we're almost at the top of that curve. So we'll get to the top of the curve around 2024, and then it will just be a flat rate all the way to 2140. Now, if you think about that and compare that to other assets like gold and silver, you see gold at the bottom right-hand side there, constantly digging more up and digging out of the ground. That is a very interesting proposition. It means that over time, there's going to be absolutely no supply response to increasing demand. So as millions of people around the world come to understand Bitcoin and start using it and start clamoring for it, it's going to be very difficult for them to get their hands on it without paying a very high price, because the people who truly understand the economics of Bitcoin are going to buy it up and they're going to hold on to it for dear life. Now, if you look at the top left-hand corner of this slide, Bitcoin average annual rate of supply increase, you can see there that as the years go by, the supply of new Bitcoin that's released goes down over time. So the actual rewards, the block rewards for people who are mining the currency go down over time, and it gets harder and harder to mine it as the difficulty rate goes up. So I guess we're in a bit of an arms race when it comes to Bitcoin miners all around the world who are, it's if you think about gold mining, right? When you mine for gold, the first bit of gold comes easily, but then as you keep digging and keep looking for it, it becomes a lot more difficult. And Bitcoin is a digital example of that. So this is why over time this is why we've got a lot of speculation in the space, because the people who truly understand the economics of it are getting into it and holding on to it as much as they can, because they understand that over time it's going to go up substantially in price. Okay, so money supply over time. Look at the US dollar versus Bitcoin. As you can see from this graphic, over time, US dollar, the government's got control of the printing press, up it goes. They can increase the supply, and that's the same with every other government around the world and central bank. They can increase the supply of the currency, thereby creating inflation, which is why the prices of everything are constantly going up over time. It's why property prices are constantly going up over time. It's because there's been a massive increase in the money supply. And if you look to the right there, Bitcoin, in terms of the total Bitcoins in circulation over time, have a look at that graph in comparison to the US dollar. Very, very big difference there. So just remember, Bitcoin flat profile growth over time in terms of supply. Okay, technology, mass adoption in years. So if you look at this graphic here, you can see that it's from the year 1860 up until 2010. There's different technologies that are plotted there on the graph, and how many years it took before there was mass adoption and everybody started using those technologies. Electricity, 46 years it took. Telephone, 35 years. Radio, 31. And as you go down, you can see that at the bottom right-hand side with the iPhone, it was only about two and a half years. Facebook, about 3 years. The web from 1991, about 7 years. So what's actually happening as more and more people are using these technologies, the time is going down in terms of how many years it takes before mass adoption is reached. That's why there's a lot of speculation in Bitcoin as well, because people are thinking, well, everyone's got a mobile phone now. Everyone's on the internet, or many people are. So how long before they all start using Bitcoin? This is where we currently are in terms of the 10,000 year view of cryptocurrencies. So gold money on the left, fiat money on the right, and where we currently are with cryptocurrencies since 2009. So, this is the very, very early days with this technology. So I guess you can always all be very happy that you're alive during a time in finance and technology where you've got the opportunity to take part in this revolution that's occurring around the world. This is a graphic in terms of the global internet penetration rate going up to 2030. So it's predicted that the majority is still to come online, and 53% of the world's population will be online or on the web by 2030. So you can just imagine the kind of numbers that we're talking about in the multiples of billions. And Bitcoin at the moment, there's estimated there's only about 5 to maybe 10 million users of Bitcoin. So there's a massive amount of growth potential in the technology. This is the internet growth usage phases in terms of tech events. So there's been 3 phases with the web: the read-only web, read-write web, and the social web. So when the internet was first introduced, back when in the 90s when I was a kid, I started using Netscape Navigator and Mosaic. I was there at the early days before it was commercialized. And then over time, we had a number of different stages where social media came up and we can all start publishing onto the web, and it's been a very interesting time where the power of publishing is now available to anyone, literally anyone in the world, on the internet. So that was a very scary thought back in the old days, that the average person would have the ability to publish anything that they wanted to on the internet. Okay, technology adoption rates. So this is another graphic in terms of adoption rates of various technology and how long it took. And I guess the takeaway message there is smartphones, just how quickly that technology was adopted. And everybody who's got a smartphone really needs a frictionless payment method, and that is going to be a cryptocurrency in my opinion. And it's looking like it will be Bitcoin. It may be something else, but Bitcoin's currently the market leader. So that's technology adoption. This is a graph of potentially where Bitcoin can go over time. So if you look from 2018 up to 2024, you can see that we're looking at a price in the high hundreds of thousands of dollars per Bitcoin, possibly up to $1 million per Bitcoin in that time frame, which again is why there's a lot of speculation in the space and why a lot of people are getting into Bitcoin. They look at the economics and they think, wow, this is something really important. Okay, technology adoption curve of blockchain. So 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote his white paper and introducing Bitcoin to the world. Started developing the software with another small group of people, and where we currently are as of 2017/2018, we're still firmly in the early adopter stage when it comes to this technology. We're not really going to get to mainstream recognition until maybe 2022. Last year's boom in terms of the price, I guess, captured a lot of people around the world's attention that, hey, this is something that we really need to take note of. When something goes from $1,000 in price up to $19,000, that US figures, a lot of people stood up and took notice of it. But we're not near the early majority at the moment. This is still really technology for the early adopter, but the early majority is coming. I think they'll be coming very soon, especially with the growth of institutions who are very interested in the technology as well. And these are people with billions of dollars to invest. So they see the potential of the technology and the potential to make a lot of money at the same time. Okay. Next slide. It's another. Okay, exponential growth. Number of Bitcoin users expected to reach 200 million by 2024. So if we think at the moment there's maybe 5 to 10 million users of Bitcoin, there is a lot of room for growth just within the next 4 to 6 years. And as those users come on board, the price of Bitcoin will have to rise substantially because it's limited in supply. You can't just create it out of thin air. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars in terms of electricity, computing power to be able to create a Bitcoin. And here in Australia, it's definitely not affordable or viable unless you're really doing it on solar and batteries, or if you've got very cheap electricity. So this graphic here shows the number of internet users. It's a bit hard to see here on Facebook, but basically in December of 95, we had about 16 million people on the internet. which is about 0.4% of the world's population. And where we are with Bitcoin at the moment, it's not even at that figure of people who are using it. So it's, you can sort of consider that it's like 1994 in terms of this technology. But that table, you see it goes from 16 million up to 4.15 billion over the course of 22, is it 22 years? Over 22 years. So you can just imagine, I mean, if 5 million people are using Bitcoin at the moment, and it's got the potential for billions of people using it, that's a massive, massive amount of growth. This is a graphic of various technologies, and as they were introduced over time, in what era, etc. You can't really see this on Facebook, so I'll go on to the next one. This is just a graphic about the global adoption rate. Internet in 1994, 0.25% of the population were using it. Cryptocurrency in 2017, we're looking at 0.5% of the population. So in terms of back in 1994, email was really the single use case with the most traction. And in cryptocurrency in 2017, it's Bitcoin. It's like a Swiss bank in your pocket. So in 1994, it was really too early for online retail, streaming video, etc. And in 2017, 2018, it's too early for most decentralized applications. So, very, very early days in what we're doing here. So another graphic about the law of diffusion of innovation, how at the start you've got your innovators and your early adopters. Then it's got to pass what's known as the chasm. Then you've got the early majority, late majority, and the laggards. That's in terms of when people come in to technology and start using a technology. And we've seen this with the growth of the internet over time, where it started off with there was a group of nerds who were using the technology. A lot of people said, this isn't going to take off, this isn't going to work, you nerds are wasting your time, etc. But nerds like myself knew that it was a very important technology, and it built over time until here we are today, when a lot of people are on the internet. Same thing will happen with cryptocurrencies, no doubt about it. This is, well, I guess it's a bit out of date now. There's been a change in the market value of crypto, but we went through the market boom and then the bust. But as of 2017, the market cap was 177 billion. We're looking at about a $200 billion market cap today. That's US dollars, and that's gone down substantially over the last 6 months during this bear market, which I personally believe is going to turn around, and we'll be at all new time highs within the next six or 7 months. Okay, the Bitcoin or the adoption life cycle. Where are we at the moment with Bitcoin? Still at the early adopter stage, so very, very early days with it. The early majority's got to come in, then the late majority and the laggards, and that's where all the growth is yet to occur, and why people are getting in early now, because they can see the price potential as more and more people come on board. It's another graph of diffusion of innovation and where we are with cryptos. This puts it slightly earlier, that we're potentially still in the innovator stage, which is, it might be right between innovators to early adopters. So we have what's known as a tipping point and a chasm in this growth curve. And for a technology to get past the chasm, so many technologies don't. They fall in and they don't get to the early majority. But I think that Bitcoin will get to that stage, and it will pass the chasm, and it will keep going. Here's a graph of Facebook monthly active users. This is interesting in terms of its growth rate. So you see, I got on Facebook back in 2005/6 and could see the potential right away. Probably should have invested some more money into it, but you can see that massive growth. Now, the question is this: I guess when it comes to Facebook, imagine Facebook was to implement a cryptocurrency. Would they implement their own? Would they use Bitcoin? You can be damn well sure that there'd be people at Facebook right now who are heavily involved in research and development of cryptocurrency. So in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before Facebook introduces probably their own crypto. But if they were to use Bitcoin, that would be very interesting. You're talking billions of people, over 2 billion people who would suddenly become exposed to cryptocurrencies. And Facebook has got that potential power if they wanted to use it, to introduce a lot of people to this technology. Okay, this is a pie graph in terms of the number of global internet users and the number of Bitcoin wallets in existence. So there's a couple of numbers missing from this, but we're looking at less than half of 1% of the people or the world's population who own Bitcoin, who are into Bitcoin at the moment. So a lot of room for growth. Another graph about where we currently are in crypto. Some peg us between around the year 1994. Other people were saying it's 1998. So we know what happened with the Nasdaq as that went through a large bubble, which popped in 2000. So I don't think that we've been through our big crypto bubble at the moment. We've been through a large run up and a crash, but I think the big one is yet to come. And the big one will come when the institutions come in, because the institutions are late to the game when it comes to cryptocurrencies. This, the last bubble, it really was a retail-led phenomenon. And until the institutions come in, these are the people with big money behind them. And the question is, what's the market cap going to look like as the big pension fund managers and the like come in? So it'd have to be over $1 trillion, could be up to $2 trillion or more. It's a graph of internet users in the world and the growth from 95 to 2010. So where we're currently at the moment, you see where it's circled there at the bottom, very early stages of this game. So yeah, long way to go. We still haven't had our Netscape moment in crypto. Metcalfe's law, 1993, Robert Metcalfe noticed that the value of a telecommunications network is proportional to the square of the number of users of the system. So as an example, 2 people with telephones can only make 1 connection. 5 telephones can make 10 connections, and 12 can make 66 connections. So basically what this is saying is that the value of a network is proportional to n squared. So the more people who come into the network, the more people who use it, the greater the value of that network, and it's exponential. And we've seen that with Facebook over time. As more people have come to use it, it's become more and more valuable over time. Same thing will happen with Bitcoin. Here's a comparison of cryptocurrency user growth versus internet user growth. And as you can see, estimated crypto user growth is actually greater than internet user growth. So it's coming along very, very quickly. Again, law of diffusion of innovation graph, and where we're at the moment in terms of the technology. So still innovator to early adopter, coming into the early majority at some stage within the next couple of years. Okay, this is Bitcoins per person. So if you think about the world's total population, 7.4 billion people, currently 17 million Bitcoins in circulation. So some of these figures are a little bit out of date in terms of the prices, but if all the Bitcoins were distributed using current global distribution of wealth, 99.9% of people would have $3.3 worth of Bitcoins, and people in the top 0.001% would have 0.69 Bitcoins each. So if you've got 2 or 3 Bitcoins, I tell you, you're right up there. If this technology is adopted very, very widely, you could become very, very wealthy indeed. Okay, this is one of the guys on Twitter who's known in the crypto space. A lot of people saying that the current cryptocurrency bear market is far from over. It's not over yet. I am taking this as a contrarian indicator. I think that when the majority go one way, that there's value in going another way. So I think we're probably close to bottom, or maybe even bottomed out already. It's a graphic about the 5 stages of grief, banks and governments on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So it's very interesting what the government and the banks have gone through. They deny it. Well, it's a fraud. What is this, a Ponzi scheme? Anger, freezing accounts, issuing bans, bargaining, creating regulations. Finally, it's, before acceptance, we've got depression. They can't stop it and they can't control it. So they have to come to acceptance, i.e. partnering. They're going to have to come and partner with people in the crypto space because there's no stopping this technology. Cat's out of the bag. That's the bottom line. And it's not going back in either. This is going to be empowered to the people on a global stage. So here's a graph of Bitcoin price versus users. And as you can see, as the number of users that are using Bitcoin has gone up, so has the price. Skip that graph. This is a number of blockchain wallet users worldwide. This is from first quarter 2014 to third quarter 2017. As you can see, it's constantly increasing. Okay, dot-com bubble versus the crypto bubble. So crypto has only achieved 3.5% of the market value of the dot-com bubble. So you can see this, we are here, very, very early stage at the moment. So, and that crypto market cap, of course, has gone down from 340 billion. We're down at about 200 billion US at the moment. And the dot-com market value before burst was around 10 trillion. We have got a long way to go to get up to those figures. Okay, cryptocurrency transaction speed. So there's the question at the moment. Well, Bitcoin is slow, can't do enough transactions per second. How is that going to scale to the entire planet? And of course, there are nerds working on this to make sure that it does scale using what are known as second. So instead of using the main blockchain, they will use something called the Lightning Network to scale it. So it's an off-chain solution to scaling. And basically, if you look at Visa there, capable of 24,000 transactions per second. Bitcoin at the moment, only capable of 7. Once Lightning Network is fully rolled out and finished, that will scale up to the millions of transactions per second, blowing Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and all the rest of those guys out of the water. And I would bet money that is going to happen. So yeah, I believe that Bitcoin will scale. The nerds will figure out a way. The reality is that there are a lot of extremely intelligent people working in the crypto space, and I think they're going to solve the problem of scaling. Okay, Bitcoin ATMs by country. I made up this graphic last year just to see where we're currently at, and you might not be able to see the numbers on Facebook, but they're small numbers. United States, 1,063 locations. Canada, 266. UK, 86. Whereas Australia, 20 locations. Now, if you think of how many traditional ATMs are out there, there are a lot. Bitcoin ATMs, not so many. So again, early days when it comes to ATMs as well. Bitcoin in perspective, it's worth more now than 66 billion. It's up at about 112 billion. But you can see there in regards to all money, stock markets, physical money, all money, there's $83 trillion worth of money in the world. Stock markets, 66 trillion. Physical money, 31 trillion. And Bitcoin is right down as this tiny, tiny thing that has only got a lot of growth ahead of it. Okay, time to reach 100 million users. This graph is interesting. It took Facebook 54 months to reach that many people. LinkedIn, 106 months. Question is, how long is it going to take Bitcoin to reach that number of users? Will the user growth continue to go up and accelerate? I believe that it will, as more and more people come to understand the technology and especially seeing how much money they can make in it as well. I believe that greed is one of the defining motivating factors of human beings, and you can bet your last dollar that people are greedy, and when they see the ability to make 10 or 20 or 100 times their money, they're going to go into it. And yeah, just from that factor alone, I think we'll bring all the big institutions in, and they're even greedier than the average everyday person, right? So, okay, Facebook monthly users. That's again more growth there. You can see how it's grown over time. Yeah, within 6.4 years, Facebook reached 50% of its global market potential. That is really, really quick. Really quick. Now the question is, how long will it take Bitcoin? Facebook users in millions. Another upward growth graph. Amazon, value of $1,000 invested in it. Amazon was one of the great growth stories, losing money for a long period of time, yet the stock price went up extraordinarily. So if a stock can go like that, imagine what a cryptocurrency that is fixed in terms of its supply can do in terms of price over the next 15 to 20 years. Okay, a bit of a comparison here between gold versus Bitcoin versus the dollar. This will be hard to see as well, but basically you can see there's a lot of green ticks next to Bitcoin, and there's a lot of crosses next to dollars and quite a few crosses next to gold as well. Bitcoin is spendable, it's pseudo-anonymous, there's small transaction fees, it's open source, durable, inflation proof, it's decentralized, very scarce. There's a lot of good things going for it. Whereas the dollar, well, dollar's not great at all. And that goes for all of the fiat currencies in the world. They're all essentially, all the central banks and governments are up to the same tricks all around the world. And Bitcoin is the only, and I repeat, it is the only technology that has been introduced that's got the ability to free mankind if people are smart enough to start using it. Okay. All right, this graph here is talking about ETFs. So an ETF is an exchange traded fund, and what that basically means is a big institution, they don't want to take custody of Bitcoin. So think of a fund manager sitting in an office in Collins Street, perched up at a high level, who's responsible for hundreds of millions, if not a couple of billion dollars. Just think about them, and they don't want to be stuffing around with private keys and wallets and cold storage and all the rest of that sort of stuff themselves. No, they want a solution that is going to work for them so that they can invest a large amount of money, as in the hundreds of millions of dollars, into Bitcoin in a way that is safe, secure, and gives them and their investors, I guess, peace of mind that, okay, it's not going to be stolen. So that's what the ETF is for, and an ETF is coming. I think one will be approved. It's just a matter of time. When an ETF was introduced for gold, we saw a massive run up in the price of gold. I believe we're going to see the same thing for Bitcoin as well, because the reality is, think about it, in America, we've got a couple of 100 million people. They've all got IRAs, they've all got retirement accounts, and the fund managers who look after those accounts, a lot of these people who have got these retirement accounts are going to be demanding, hey, I want to buy some Bitcoin, and the fund managers will buy it for them. So they want, the average everyday person doesn't want to stuff around with private keys and taking ownership of their money and all the rest of that stuff. But rest assured, the big institutions, once the ETF is approved, they will come on board big time. It's only going to take one of them to start the process and be the first to come and buy up a lot of Bitcoin, and the rest will follow. You can be assured of that. This is a graph of the Nasdaq over time. You can see in 2000 when we reached the peak, and then it went downhill for many years, and it's increased a lot more now, but that went through a bubble. We're going to have bubbles in cryptocurrency. We're going to have large run-ups and large falls. I mean, Bitcoin has fallen by about 70% this year. It's not the largest fall. There have been bigger ones, but that's the nature of this technology. Any kind of new asset class is always going to have, teething problems at the start. If you think about it at the moment with Bitcoin, a lot of people are saying, what is this Bitcoin? I don't understand it. Can I trust it? Is it a Ponzi scheme? I don't really know about this. There's a whole lot of uncertainty out there. And I guess for you and I, what that means is there's a lot of potential to make money, to capitalize on it, to come into the space when very few people understand how it works or what the economics of the asset are. Because if the average person on the street truly understood the economics of Bitcoin, there would be a stampede worldwide into the asset class, right? But they don't understand it. They're still asking very basic questions about it. So, very early days. Okay, this is Sir Tim Berners-Lee. The photo on the left was taken at CERN, and that's when he invented the World Wide Web. He invented the first web server, and that's on the right. That's him giving a speech many years later. So, very, very early days at the moment. We know what the impact of the World Wide Web was at the time. At CERN back in the early 90s, there were a few people around who understood, could see the vision of what the web was going to become and what Sir Tim had developed there. But the world was yet to find out about it. But we know what happened over the years and the growth of the internet, and I believe the same thing will happen with cryptocurrency, because this is a profound change. We've gone from being able to transmit information through the internet to be able to publish worldwide, transmit information to one another. We can now do that with value, okay? And that's it's a profound change to be able to send value peer-to-peer without any kind of central authority, government, bank, or anybody getting in the way of it. So don't underestimate what this revolution is going to bring about all around the world. Another graph there of various technologies. So the telephone, electricity, cars, radio, air travel, credit card, and basically they all look like upward lines in terms of how long they took before people started to adopt them. And Bitcoin is right down the bottom of that line. It's like the line has not even started yet when you look at Bitcoin. Okay, this graphic here is about the internet stack versus the blockchain stack and where the value capture lies. So think about the internet, think about the people and big corporations who made all the money on the internet, on the old version or the current version of the internet. Those companies are Apple, Amazon, Alibaba, Facebook, Netflix, Google, and the like, right? They captured the value of the internet, where the protocols, TCP/IP, SMTP, all the various protocols at the bottom, they didn't capture any value at all. With the blockchain stack, which Bitcoin is a part of, the value is being captured down at the protocol level. And the protocol level is Bitcoin, Stellar, EOS, Ethereum, and all the various cryptocurrencies. So the ultimate bet to make is not on the companies who are developing within the blockchain space. It's not within the miners. It's not within the exchanges. It's not any of that. The ultimate bet is actually just to buy up the cryptocurrencies themselves, because that's where the value will really accrue. Now, Silicon Valley, they've been sort of a bit late to this game, and there's a reason why they've been late to the game, because it's not really in their best interests given that the value is being captured down at the protocol layer and not at the application layer. So if you're creating a decentralized Uber, for example, why do you need the board of directors, the CEO, and all these people who sit atop a hierarchical system when you're developing a new version, a decentralized Uber that doesn't need any of that, right? So the value will accrue to the token and to the people who are involved in the performing the actual work, expending energy to do work to drive other people around, right? They're going to be able to capture all the value, not some big corporation and executives and shareholders at the top. This whole model is changing because of what's going on here in the blockchain space. Facebook network effects, hyper growth, again another upward chart. Okay, I'm going to move on to fiat currencies. Now, here in Australia, everyone keeps going on about property is great, property is fantastic, look how much it's gone up in value, etc. And property can be great. It can go up a lot in value. It has done over time. But what's really happened, it's not that the property has gone up in value. The actual value of the land is the same as it was yesterday. What's actually happened is the money supply has been increased substantially. Now look at this graph here in terms of how much M3 has been increased, even just since I started work in 2000, right? It's increased an extraordinary amount, and that's your government at work. That's your government and the banks working together to increase the money supply to fuck you and I over. Bottom line. Although as a public servant, I have to be careful what I say. I have to be apolitical. So let me take that back and let me just say, well, inflation is always with us, right? Regardless of the country, regardless of the government, whoever's got control of the printing press has got a great advantage. Takeaway message is buy Bitcoin. All right. US national debt over time, it's gone up by an extraordinary amount. You can go online, you can see the US national debt clock. It's just ridiculous. And it's politicians and the government that are responsible for this. So, okay, this is a graph and a graphic about the block rewards in Bitcoin and how many new Bitcoin are created over time and the growth over time in terms of the price. So you can see since 2010 up to 2018, that price has increased substantially, whilst the rewards have gone down in terms of how much Bitcoin is created and how much is rewarded to the miners. And over time, I think that graph will be continuing to go up and up and up. We've got a halvening coming up, and that means that the block reward to the Bitcoin miners will halve. Instead of 12.5 Bitcoins per block, there'll be 6.25. And yeah, over time, that reward is halved again and again and again into the future. So, as I said, Bitcoin's the hardest asset out there, and it's got a lot of potential for growth in price. Let's see, traditional traits of money. Okay, so what's excellent and what's not so excellent? Barter, you can see there's a lot of problems with barter. Gold and silver, problems. Fiat, problems. But with Bitcoin, highly divisible, globally transferable, durable, secure, can't be counterfeited. People are starting to accept it. Not so many at the moment. It's scarce. There's a predictable supply. It's not sovereign, i.e. it's not issued by the government. It's decentralized. And it's smart. It's programmable. We have to remember here when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies that you don't need personhood to own cryptocurrency, i.e. machines can own it. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, what it means is that you could have, say, a self-driving car that earns cryptocurrency. So you could have vending machines that earn cryptocurrency, and the machines themselves earn it. It's divorced from the actual person who, or from personhood. So you're going to see machines transacting in cryptocurrency between themselves. And this is what a lot of people don't get. They're like, oh, well, okay, people, this Bitcoin is hard to use. Are people really going to use it? This and that. At the end of the day, machines are going to be using cryptocurrency. So the growth potential is simply enormous. Think about how many computers there are out there connected to the internet, how many machines are out there as well. It's early days and extraordinary growth potential. Bitcoin versus gold. So you can see gold has been flat in terms of its price, whereas Bitcoin, boom. That's another graph in terms of the halvening of the block rewards and the growth in prices. So, as I said, I think that price will continue to increase. We're going to be looking at $100,000 per Bitcoin in the near future, in my opinion. So there are various predictions on exactly when it'll hit $100,000. It wouldn't surprise me if it hits 100 grand within the next year or so. Yeah. Okay, this chart is from Fundstrat. If any of you out there are very interested in Bitcoin, check out Tom Lee from Fundstrat. Fascinating guy, very smart, knows what he's talking about. He is one of the only Wall Street analysts to be out there covering Bitcoin, and I think he does a wonderful job at it. But he has got a research division of his company, and he puts out a lot of stuff. You have to pay for it, but he also puts out some free stuff as well. And yeah, have a look through his stuff. It's very interesting. It shows the different bull and bear markets we've had in Bitcoin and how many days we've had a bear market versus a bull market, what the increase has been versus the decline, and what the growth has been over time. As I was saying before, in terms of where the value is being captured, it's not at the application layer, it's at the protocol layer, meaning that all the value, all the money is going to be made by buying up the tokens, right? So if you're out there and you're listening to this, that's my key takeaway message. Buy the tokens, because that's where the money is going to be made. .com bubble and cryptocurrencies, market size comparison. That cryptocurrency, that value there, 538 billion, that's obviously gone down quite a bit since the top last year. It's at about 200 billion US now, but as you can see, still a lot of room for growth. This is a graphic I made up about a year ago. Yeah, the Song Dynasty was actually the first place in which paper currency was used, and it was in China. And think about it at the time. Imagine we're around 1,057 years ago, and someone from the government comes up to us, and we're a couple of traders, and says, "Excuse me, gentlemen, gold and silver is no longer going to be currency. This will be currency," and hands us some paper money. We probably would have looked at that paper money and thought, what the hell is this? This isn't money. Get the hell away from me. Well, it took hundreds and hundreds of years before paper currency was accepted as money. And we're at the stage now where it's only been about 8 or 9 years since Bitcoin was first created. And it's only been really 1 year since the big proliferation of cryptocurrencies. So that's not a whole lot of time, and it shows just how very, very exceptionally early we are in all this. The people who are earlier than us were essentially the lunatic fringe, right? The people who get into stuff right at the beginning, the real innovators out there. This is a graphic about the various companies that dominate our lives on the internet. Skype, largest communications company and owns no infrastructure. Uber, the largest taxi service, and they own no taxis.